Hello, everyone. Thank you for reaching back out and continuing to listen to this video series regarding the reading of the Gerald Shea Memorandum. Today, we're going to be starting off with Section 8, titled Inadequate Israeli Warnings in August of 2001. Just a little bit of a backstory. Well, you can begin, if this is your first time seeing this video, you can begin going to my account, Jonathan Belsorti, and looking at my playlist, which has this Gerald Shea Memorandum playlist created on there. And you can start off with the first video so you can get yourself more familiarized and start off with the beginning of this report instead of starting on Section 8. A little bit of a background on this report. It was written by Gerald Shea. He's a retired district attorney residing in San Luis Obispo, California. It regards Israeli intelligence gathering operations, also known as one of the largest intelligence gathering operations on U.S. soil to date from a foreign country. And basically this shows that there were Israeli former security officials, former bomb technicians, former individuals who worked with the Mossad, who worked with intelligence gathering operations in Israel, who were basically going around to different DEA sites, as well as homes of DEA employees, chemists, laboratory workers, and attempting to sell them art pieces. I've seen people speculate that there were potentially spying gears in these art pieces, but I don't want to explore that. I don't have any information for that to this point. But basically, it shows information that these Israeli individuals, which we have names of in this report, who were arrested and charged with visa violations most of the time, were actually very close to the locations of the future 9/11 hijackers. They were residing in Hollywood, Florida. They were residing in New Jersey. They were residing in Texas. They were residing in California. They were residing very close to the 9/11 hijackers. And it's very interesting what Gerald Shea is able to pull in this report. And it's a very important report that the 9/11 truth movement, what's left of it, needs to leverage and basically push our officials in the government, or what's left of the government, I guess, in terms of credibility, to push this into another formal investigation of 9/11 and of what we knew, how we knew it, who knew it, what agencies in the government knew it, what foreign agencies in the government knew, and when did they know, so that we can get justice for the families who were affected on 9/11 and who are continued to be affected to this day through Saudi Arabian greenwashing, through a larger amount of money that's being invested from the kingdom, as well as a greater relationship that our country is harboring with countries such as Israel, which through this report shows that they knew something was occurring prior to 9/11. Unfortunately, supposedly, Israel did not warn the United States until 1 month prior to the attacks. Anyways, we're going to continue on reading Section 8, also known as Inadequate Israeli Warnings in August of 2001. So as noted above, almost immediately after September 11th, reports emerged of Israeli warnings in August that major terrorist attacks were imminent. On September 16th of 2001, the Daily Telegraph in London reported that Israeli intelligence officials said that they warned their counterparts in the United States last month that large-scale terrorist attacks on highly visible targets on the American mainland were imminent. Two senior experts with Mossad, the Israeli Military Intelligence Service, were sent to Washington in August to alert the CIA and FBI of the existence of a cell of as many as 200 terrorists said to be preparing a big operation. They had no specific information about what was being planned, but linked the plot to Osama bin Laden and told the Americans that there were strong grounds for suspecting Iraqi involvement. The LA Times reported on September 20th of 2001 that a high-ranking U.S. law enforcement official confirmed that FBI and CIA officials were advised in August of 2000 One, that as many as 200 terrorists were slipping into the United States and planning a major assault on the United States. The advisory was passed on by the Mossad. It cautioned that it had picked up indications of a large-scale target in the United States and that Americans would be very vulnerable, the official said. It is not known whether U.S. authorities thought the warning to be credible, or whether it contained enough details to allow counterterrorism teams to come up with a response. But the official said the advisory linked the information back to Afghanistan and exiled Saudi militant Osama bin Laden. Fox News also reported on May 17th of 2002, and apparently also on September 14th of 2001, that based on its own intelligence, the Israeli government provided general information to the United States in the second week of August that an al-Qaeda attack was imminent. Neither the Commission in its final report or in its staff statements, nor the Joint Committee report specifically mentions any such warnings from the Israeli government. These statements and reports do, however, defer to our intelligence community's desire to safeguard and maintain the secrecy of its sources and methods. These are likely to have included Israeli warnings and the Israelis' own sources. But in view of the dramatic question raised by the Israeli group's activities in the United States in the months leading up to September 11th, these sources and methods now need to be disclosed. As shown in the tabular comparison in Exhibit E, the accounts of Mossad's warnings in August bear the unmistakable imprints of authenticity. Mossad's warnings were reported by the Daily Telegraph and others right after September 11th, well over 2 years before the Joint Committee's report and the publication of the Presidential Daily Briefing of August 6, 2001. Yet they bear a remarkable similarity to both the Joint Committee's description of all source reporting and the PDB's account of clandestine foreign government and media reports and recent FBI information. The key differences, as shown in Exhibit E, are Mossad's warnings that A, the attacks were imminent, B, they were to take place on the U.S. mainland, and C, 200 terrorists were in the United States to carry them out. Mossad also warned of suspected Iraqi involvement, though this, of course, has never been established and is generally considered to be untrue. That's very interesting that that's added on there. That we did receive warnings of this general nature from Mossad seems more than likely. But the real issue, again, is given the extensive surveillance by the Israeli groups of U.S. Arab groups and in all likelihood of the future hijackers in their central bases of operation and elsewhere in the United States, were not the Israeli groups or some of their members aware of what was going to happen in advance? Is this not dramatically shown by the behavior of the Israeli New Jersey group of the morning of September 11th? And if so, did the Israeli government decide not to provide us with enough information to stop them? As noted in the next section, the Israelis may have given us warning in late August 2001 of the presence in the United States of Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, resulting in the CIA's having them placed on the State Department's tip-off watch list, or this may have been part of the Israeli warnings earlier in August. In either case, the CIA's and the Commission's explanation of how these two future hijackers came to be watch-listed, which makes no mention of Israeli warnings, is highly confusing. And as we shall see, in the end, difficult to believe. Yes, I agree with that. Even so, the Israeli warning as to the two men would have come too late, for we now know that they were then or soon hiding in an obscure motel in Maryland, from which they did not emerge until September 11th. On television documentaries cited above, which did not have access to or study in any detail the documents, lists, reports, and other information set forth herein, or even any knowledge of the existence of the Israeli New Jersey group, has put the relevant question bluntly, in the form of a question, an answer, and a rhetorical question. What about this question of advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on September 11th? How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something? It's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected. None of it's necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Emphasis supplied. That's the end of section 8. Let's continue on to section 9. The watch listing of Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi in August of 2001. There was yet another press report of Mossad warnings in August of 2001, which appeared in Die Zeit in October of 2002. The report states that the names of Mihdhar and Hazmi were given to the CIA by Mossad on August of 23rd of 2001, resulting in their watch listing on August of 24th. Although the report is based upon unspecified documents obtained by Die Zeit, it is interesting given the contemporaneous just after September 11th and credible reports of August Mossad warnings cited above. Collectively, the report reported warnings appear to offer the most likely reason for the watch listing of these two future hijackers in August of 2001. The commission and its staff, however, make no mention of any Israeli warnings and take the position undoubtedly adopting the CIA's public stance that it was solely a series of reviews beginning in May of 2001 that led to the watch listing. But as we shall see, this account is both difficult to follow and hard to believe. In any event, it shows that no real action was taken to watchlist Midar or Hazmi until late August, after the Israeli warnings appear to have been received. The issue is important because any downplaying of Israeli warnings, whether done in order to conceal their or our sources and methods, or for other reasons, draws attention away from the major question of the adequacy of the Mossad warnings and the surveillance role the Israeli groups played in the United States in the months leading up to September 11th. I shall try to restate the commission and its staffs, as well as the CIA's official explanation of the watch listing here. Yes. See, I want to read that again. The issue is important because any downplaying of Israeli warnings, whether done in order to conceal their or our sources and methods, so Israel could potentially conceal their sources and methods regarding intelligence gathering operations on two terrorists in the United States. So what is the Israeli Mossad doing gathering intelligence in the United States? And what do we know was occurring at the same time these plannings of these attacks was occurring in the United States? It was the art student ring that went around to DEA sites of over 200 Israeli art students attempting to sell art to these federal employees, going to federal bases, doing signals intelligence and intelligence gathering on these bases. Very interesting that these two events were seemingly occurring at the same time. So once again, the issue is important because any downplaying of Israeli warnings, whether done in order to conceal their or our sources and methods, or for the other reasons, draws attention away from the major question of the adequacy of the Mossad warnings and the surveillance role the Israeli groups played in the United States in the months leading up to September 11th. Yes, what surveillance role were they playing? And it's very important to ask that question. I shall try to restate the commission and its staffs and the CIA's official explanation of the watch listing here. John, Mary, Jane, and Alice, Section A. In the spring of 2001, they reported threats of terrorist attacks on U.S. interests abroad, as noted more particularly in the first column of Exhibit E. According to the commission staff, in May of that year, a CIA officer called only John to protect his identity in staff statement number 10 and in the commission's final report wondered where the attacks might occur. John's spontaneous interest was said to have been prompted by his recollection that Midar and Hazmi had been present at the Kuala Lumpur meeting in January of 2000. It was suspected that the attack on the U.S. vessel Cole in October of 2000 had been planned at that meeting. So in the month of May 2001, the story continues, and a woman at the CIA, whom we shall call Alice here, reviewed the CIA cable's traffic concerning the Kuala Lumpur meeting. Alice reportedly discovered that the CIA had learned in March of 2000, though they had never shared this information with the FBI, that Midar had had a U.S. visa and that Hazmi had come to L.A. shortly after the Kuala Lumpur meeting. John did nothing at all, however. 2 months later, at a time when the focus was still on threats to U.S. interests outside the United States, in late July or sometime in August, John asked Mary, an FBI agent detailed to the CIA, to review the cable traffic one more time. It is unclear what inspired John to resume that work. He is said to have recalled or discovered that Khalid, a dangerous al-Qaeda operative, had been identified as one of those who attended the Kuala Lumpur meeting. But John was not particularly concerned and told Mary to do the work in her spare time. On August 21st of 2001, Mary is said to have discovered a bit more than Alice supposedly had in May. Hazmi had come to Los Angeles and was known, but Midar had used his visa to come as well, along with Hazmi in January of 2000. Working with Jane, an FBI agent assigned to the CIA, Mary also discovered that Midar had left the United States later in 2000, but had just returned on July 4th of 2001. Because of Mary's discoveries, Midar and Hazmi were placed on the watch list. All right, that's the official explanation. The uncertain, untranslated, unwitnessed, unremembered, and erroneous identification of Khalid. As the commission staff has said of this route to the watch list, the details are complex. They are also serendipitous to the point of undermining their credibility. In the first place, John is said to have recalled or discovered that Khalad had been identified from a photograph in January of 2001 by a joint FBI/CIA source as an attendee of the Kuala Lumpur meeting in January of 2000. The FBI agent said to have been present at the January 2001 meeting, however, was unaware apparently because of the language problems that any such identification had ever been made. What? Moreover, the CIA officer himself, who supposedly conducted the interview, does not recall this particular identification at all and thus cannot say why it was not shared with his FBI colleague. As we have seen, Alice, who was said to have reviewed the cables, cables in May, took no action regarding these cables. Neither did John. Indeed, the commission staff noticed that Alice cannot even recall this work. The commission deleted the words regarding Alice's loss of memory from its final report without explanation. This untranslated, unwitnessed, and forgotten identification that so inspired John to return later in the summer to the work forgotten by Alice seems to have been just as elusive. The joint source had been said, in someone's report, to be less than certain or 90% certain that the man in the photograph shown him was Khalad. And indeed, although both the commission's final report and its staff statements failed to tell us so, the purported identification itself later proved to be the commission's final report and its staff statements, the commission's final report and its staff statements failed to tell us so. The purported identification itself later proved to be false. The man was not Khalad, so Khalad had not been identified, and until after September 11th, his everyday appearance remained as much a mystery as a purported meeting with the joint source that supposedly so inspired John on his way to the watch list before the Mossad warnings in August. As noted above, when Alice's work was effectively taken up late in August, the U.S. presence or likely presence of Midar and Hazmi was again discovered, and on August 24th of 2001, both men were placed on the watch list. As noted above, they were then safely secluded and never found in Maryland. William of Ockham, Dean original. John, Mary, Jane, and Alice may have all been hard at work in Washington and made a contribution, but Ockham's razor leads us to a far straighter course to the watch list by the way of Mossad's warning in August, the likely result of the surveillance activities of the Israeli groups and their inadequate warnings. Both Midar and Hazmi, hijackers of the Pentagon plane and leaders of the entire hijacker group, would easily have fallen under the surveillance of the Israeli New Jersey group in Hudson and Bergen counties, and of the Israeli DEA groups in San Diego in the case of Nawaf al-Hazmi, in the Hollywood area and possibly in Oklahoma. And it was only after the Mossad warnings were received that the CIA finally, on August 27th of 2001, told the FBI that Midar and Hazmi were in the United States.